Yo, put a robot in a hoodie, and this is what you get. He is moving like the best of them up on that stage. I mean, tell me that doesn't look more real than Humanoids last year.
Isn't this the actual robot that is controlled by the VR headset? That's not it. Well, I don't know. I think I saw a Chinese person controlling
By
a
like a
robotic
hundredfold. I don't know if you saw this Netflix
with the
versus
Meta
Paramount
Quest
parody,
3.
but it is the battle royale with all of the Warner Brother properties sitting in the stands wondering where they are going to end up. Look at that. Jennifer Aniston from Friends and Batman. Everything's a cinematic universe now. Picard and Worf are in there if you look close. Dumbledore versus Superman. Who would
That
you
is
bet on?
super fun. I wonder if they're gonna add up new characters in the multiverses game.
Tell what's a joke as a business model because it sounds like it would make money and what isn't anymore. There's a scooter company saying that their business strategy is to get hit by a Waymo and sue, but not to create the accident, just drive carefully and wait for the algorithm to make a mistake, and they worked out the mathematical probabilities.
We want to get hit by a Waymo. We're
No
California's biggest
way.
electric moped company, and we need money for more mopeds. A settlement with Waymo is our business strategy.
So we're going to talk about some new evidence
That
that
is
reveals a viral
hilarious.
hypothesis for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. No, seriously, it might have been hepatitis C all along. We're going to talk about Spatia,
What?
video generation with updatable spatial memory. Yeah, we're talking long horizon, spatially consistent video generation.
Oh, it's with Dylan that we saw the longer videos. That's crazy because this is an issue where if the video starts to get too long, the image produced it goes to shit. It's pretty crazy.
Imagine you follow that elephant for hours. If you're wondering what it is in the modern world that makes
Hours.
it seem like everybody has an immune system problem now, more evidence that it might.
That's it. I was talking with a colleague about this. I think last year was the first time that I had like such bad sinus allergy.
Pollution, but not just fighting it, like
Well, I
turning your
thought it
immune
was
system
allergies.
against you permanently. And we're going to talk about
Clearly,
the
it's
idea that
not.
there might be a third path to
It's not.
explain consciousness, biological computationalism. I'm going to.
Well, I wonder if he's going to talk about those biochips we've seen with fungi and biomatter.
Share a podcast. I would love it if you guys would watch it so that you can maybe bring me a comment or like tell me in my Patreon if this is real and what it means. Like there's this theory that gravity could just be rising entropy, and I've listened to this podcast twice now and it's blowing my mind.
Rising entropy. That's curious. What I had heard is that well, there's no gravity. It's buoyancy. Oh, thank you for the auto suggestion. So buoyant force is the upward force exerted by by a fluid, liquid, or gas on an object submerged in it, equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. Because yeah, if you only talk about gravity, yeah, if you only talk about gravity, I think it wouldn't matter if it's in a liquid or not. It would still pull the object, but because of oh shit, I don't know. I don't understand most of
I
the
always
things
thought there
that
was
I
something
talk
sort of
about.
special about heat, like heat and cool. Like, but could that actually explain gravity? I don't know. Maybe. But first, do you mind
It's pretty
pressing
cool.
the hype button on YouTube right now? So if you're on the mobile app, go to the comments and swipe to the left. If the videos with
There's a new
posted within the
hype
7 days
button.
of its launch, you might see a hype button. That is, if you
Oh,
haven't already used the only 3 that you get each week. Either way, back to the stuff. And by stuff, I mean this guy. This is a robot dancing musician, rapper looking guy. You know, at first I was like, maybe this is a little person or something dancing around. But no, on closer inspection, this is The humanoid robot that we have seen dancing and boxing and fighting a lot in the last couple
Oh, that's it. That's it. It is remotely controlled.
weeks. And you can imagine 10 of those flying V formation being the most incredibly looking, perfectly synced dancers of all time. Backing up every major singer coming soon. Unitree robots. So I feel
Well, where they're really gonna make their money is when you're gonna get those stripper robots. So effectively, as the NVIDIA guy pointed out, you're gonna get AI managers of AI agents, right? Just uh, a snippet of that. I think Jensen said it. Jensen.
Fundamental advance in artificial intelligence. We call it agentic AI. Agentic AI basically means that you have an AI that has agency. It can perceive and understand the context of the circumstance. It can reason.
A bunch of bullshit. Anyways, what I was gonna say is that you're gonna get effectively one human stripper that is going to do a whole bunch of different dances and program them into the robots. So the strip clubs are gonna be money making machines, unless people can't afford food still. So
feel like there was so many cinematic crossovers in 2020.
that's a crazy video, though.
That 2025 just became a mess. But when I think about 2026, it is and AI, it is the content creators taking every IP that existed from all times. It does not matter if it is Sherlock Holmes, if it is Calvin and Hobbes, if it is
Right, because Netflix has an offer to buy Warner's Brothers, and Paramount provided a bigger offer. I think it was something like 110 billions. And the point was that Netflix offering was supposed to provide more value over time, uh, over a fixed period of time. So that means that effectively, if Warner Brothers sells to Netflix, it shows that they are not concerned with the most immediate profit. So whenever they push that narrative, this is just used to shield the stupid behavior that they engage with. They
Batman,
engage
Game of
in.
Thrones, The Friends, Matrix, Superman, Harley Quinn, and
Friends.
that much IP that many people across the world know coming together in unique and interesting ways will define the type of AI content I think that goes incredibly viral next year. Now, I do think AI is going to have all sorts of actual brands that come out of nowhere, but next year will be the year those seeds are planted.
Well, yeah, it already started with Disney leasing or renting or providing Sora, which is OpenAI's video generator model. Uh, about 200 characters, Disney characters that you're going to be able to use in the videos. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
But the mainstream stuff getting ultra crossed over, like the deal Sora has with Disney, I think that is going to be kind of the key big moves that we're going to see.
Yeah, big as in stupid. I mean, look at that. Yeah, you had the Sam Altman stealing. Okay, so these are all the stupid ass shit that are going to be produced with Disney characters. How about that? How about that?
Look at Optimus Prime right behind SpongeBob. It's funny how it feels like Warner Brothers has the biggest IP out of everybody fighting, but like they're the smaller ones. Just goes to show you what a profit machine Netflix has been.
Yeah,
That subscription service, man, that's where the money
it's
is. All right,
another
tell me what do you
game.
think about this idea?
Well, it's not complicated. It was local, and then it's global. That's it. Streaming is global.
Supposedly generated by Gemini actually makes kind of financial sense, but it's also just so against the grain that it shouldn't exist. I'll let them explain.
A settlement with Waymo is our business strategy. We ran
Yo, that is insane. That is insane. More people should have thought of
the
that.
numbers and we think we need 100 mopeds out there to ensure a collision. We're deploying them now. Our lawyer told us we can't try to instigate a crash or create a dangerous situation, but we can deploy a bunch of mopeds with cameras on them and have them go about their day until probability does the rest.
So, if you remember last month, there was that guy who bought up all of a not particularly rare kind of.
That's crazy too. So, he's just doing what corporations have been doing forever. He's creating a false scarcity of a product, and just basic economics make it so that this card that was worthless or close to worthless has risen in value so much. It is absurd. And he has them. People know he has them. You know, he could effectively raise the price of this card and liquidate it slowly over time, over a certain period of time, to maximize the profit he would get on this worthless card. And you can understand this is the exact same shit that big ass companies do all the time.
Pokemon card, and then he showed that he had possession of them all, and then just took them off the market. He, like, in theory, the
Or
ChatGPT was
that's a
saying like, well,
lot.
he could burn them, and then the scarcity would be very small. There'd only be like a few left, and the value would go through the roof. So ways to make money that are truly non-traditional is something it feels like this AI era is starting.
That is not true. That is the whole point. It is traditional. It is. It's the basics of economics. That is why it works.
To hit upon. So
And that's the other issue, is that you have people, because everybody's struggling, people are doing that in every single aspect of whatever they can get away with.
look for 2026 to be full of crazy business models. I don't even know if that Waymo thing is, it's probably not real. It's probably a joke, but it just kind of show like, well, like when you think not like a human and you think like an LLM.
What do you mean? I mean, considering that they are fully automated, if they are fully automated, I don't even know about Waymo's whole deal. But I mean, there is a high likelihood that accidents are going to happen. So it's not that out there, to be honest. I feel it's better than people doing some insurance fraud and like slamming their brakes in your face.
That is, I guess a viable business strategy, and it's hard to argue with it from strictly a business point of view. It's all like a moral, emotional, respectable kind of breaking that it does. All right, next up, let's go talk about the 5 rules that you need in life. This is,
I mean, you've had private equity do the exact same thing, right? There's a, is it private equity? There's a investment firm um, investigating companies, and betting on their downfall. Hindenburg Research. So this guy, what he does, he looks into other companies. He looks into the way that they operate, and what is unlikely to be true, right? So he does a whole investigation, and behind these companies, such as the Adani Group, there's accounting fraud, stock manipulation, and so this firm bets against these companies. They take a position against them. Then they publish the reports of the investigation, and with the damage that it does to the fraudulent company, damage here being a good thing. With the damage it does to this company, they make a whole bunch of profit. And you can see that this is the way that they operate. So they've had a couple of successful investment this way. So, I mean, it is the game. If you play within the frame of the game, it's okay, I guess.
Carl Jung, but written by Andy Murphy. All right, let's talk about these 5 rules. So, number 1, befriend your shadow. This means noticing and accepting the parts of yourself you usually ignore or reject. So, that'd be something like a fear or habit, some kind of a blind spot. I think this is a little bit like meditation, like step back and sort of notice things about you and don't pretend that those parts don't exist. Don't protect your ego, acknowledge them so that they don't shape your life, even if you're not proud of them or you know they're bad. Second, follow meaning, not pleasure. So rather than chasing short term or fun, easy comforts, aim for what genuinely matters in the long run. You know, building something over time, finding a partner, doing something that seems like it's changing the world, something meaningful, building a community, something like that that doesn't just kind of involve you feeling good, because those feelings are always fleeting. But you can enjoy the journey if you're going somewhere bigger. Number 3 is become whole, not perfect. So the goal isn't flawlessness, it's integrating all parts of yourself, strengths and weaknesses alike, so that you live more authentically and less in conflict with yourself. Because you have to imagine anybody who thinks they're kind of perfect or is striving for perfection, to do that, you have to kind of ignore and not integrate all your parts. Like, we all know that we're just full of flaws and like pros and cons, but they come together to make a whole. So just accept all of the pieces as a whole instead of individually saying, like, I just hate that part about me. Be like, okay, as a whole, this is the person I am, and here's the dings and scars and stitches that define me as who I am as a whole, and then move towards the whole that, you know, goes towards your bigger goals. Number 4, get to know your persona. Your persona is the social face that you show others, and by understanding how it differs from your true self, you can stop performing for the approval of others and start showing up more honestly. And then number 5 is all about putting it all together. So integrate your opposites. So life has tensions like logic and emotion, or independence and connection. And instead of choosing one side, bring them together in a balanced way. So whatever you're the best at is probably also your weakness. That tool that you use to succeed in life, to make money, to find your partner, that same tool, it's probably overused in some cases and it's not helping you. You know, most of the time it's worth using, but knowing when to turn it off, when to bring in another tool, that's the secret balance to life. I feel like that's the sauce. Okay, so this article is saying that there's a lot of modern online platforms that stopped being about real communication and slowly turned into entertainment systems. And I totally feel that way. Like, Facebook was supposed to be this connection tool, and so was Instagram, and then short form came along, and now, you know, YouTube went from long form to short form.
That's the thing, you know, they try to get the most engagement, so they want to keep you on the platform now. YouTube Shorts came out because there was a lot of loss to other short form platforms such as Instagram Reels or TikTok. But the thing is that people consume that, but it is also the less valuable type of user um, to have, right? So I don't know if you guys are aware, but depending on which platform you have an account on, depending on the type of profile they have on you, these profiles have different values. So let's say Facebook profile price value. Well, this is not the information I'm looking for, but what you're gonna see is that, for instance, the ads on longer format videos are gonna cost more, are gonna be more valuable than ads shown on shorter form platforms. So, for instance, uh, I think TikTok would be cheapest compared to YouTube or Facebook and Instagram. So, effectively making it less valuable than these other platforms.
And everything that was text is sort of also video. And then the TikTok algorithm, which was just like the most massive dump of dopamine ever, just owned us all, right? And just everything went in that direction. So he talks about how tools were once meant to reliably send messages between people and now focus on feeds and likes and endless scrolling. And instead of making sure the messages arrive and conversations continue, these platforms prioritize what keeps people watching and reacting. Now, I'd be kind of curious how much you guys still use email? Like, emails always seemed like one of the worst ways to communicate, and there's something really weird about like reply all and then sometimes forward, but it's sometimes on the same thread and it's got branches that you just kind of need to know or they group together. So older tools like email or RSS, they still work, pretty well for communication, but they feel so boring compared to today's flashy, attention driven apps. What do you think about Slack? One time it was described as Twitter for the workplace, and I was like, yeah, kind of. That's a tool that seems like it works pretty good for groups. But just the key idea is that he's arguing we didn't accidentally lose communication, we just traded it subtly and slowly for entertainment. And if you follow that out, it affects friendships, work, politics, and even trust itself. Our main tools that were designed for talking to each other are now meant to entertain us.
I don't want to throw shit on my boy Dylan. I don't want to throw any shit on him, but he was talking about that, and I just had a little thought. So, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. 1800 letter friend to another friend. I just want to get like a quick example, right? Well, if it gets sexual, we're not gonna read that. Okay, I don't think. Let's just get one example. All right, so we're gonna read this and see how communication evolved. Nearly all the writing of most persons is in the form of letters, and yet in many of our schools, this kind of composition is almost entirely neglected. So you see, this is something that every generation complains about, right? There is a lack of effort or something missing in the newer generation that the current generation is seeing. And so here he's talking about writing in letters, right? This neglect is probably due in some measure to the fact that heretofore there has been no complete and systematic treatise on the subject of letter writing. When it is considered that in the art of correspondence there is much that is conventional, requiring a knowledge of social customs, which, if not early taught, is obtained only after many years of observation and experience, and that the possession or want of this knowledge does much to determine a person's standing in cultured society. The value of this art and of a thorough textbooks by which it may be taught will be duly appreciated. That is crazy. So, I mean, people have been ranting forever. There's this the oldest complaint. This is also absolutely hilarious. The tablet details that this gentleman traveled to Dilmun to buy copper and returned to sell it in Mesopotamia. On one particular occasion, he had agreed to sell copper ingots to Nani. Nani sent his servant with the money to complete the transaction. The copper was considered by Nani to be substandard and was not accepted. In response, Nani produced the cuneiform letter for delivery to the gentleman. Inscribed on it is a complaint to the gentleman about a copper delivery of the incorrect grade. And so this is the oldest customer complaint. It's written on clay. There you have it. And so what has changed? What has changed? Not so much, I would say. People, instead of complaining in letter form, they're able to express themselves in video and complain about that. So I guess it hasn't changed all that much, to be honest. Right? Quantity versus quality, guidelines for an excellent letter. This whole letter is just about the lack of study of the younger generation to write letters. That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
Instead of helping us truly talk, connect, and actually staying connected is harder than ever. All right, so here's another wild one. I
Maybe it feels that so to some people, but I mean, it's just the same, but everything has evolved, right? Instead of a MSN, right now there's a Discord or a Messenger with Instagram and Facebook, WhatsApp. I mean, people use Signal, they use Telegram. I don't feel like communication has stopped all that much. Maybe a little more locally, there's a bit more fragmentation, but overall, there has not been this much communications ever in the whole history of time, as far as we know. You have the velocity of information. Far, so I would understand. I would imagine that what happened right now with the American army, you know, kidnapping, I guess, the Venezuelan president, or captured. I'm sorry, that was the wrong term. I'm so sorry. Captured. And this happened 1 hour ago. This happened here 49 minutes ago, 52 minutes ago, 1 hour ago. So this happened last night, right? Overnight attack. Everybody knows about it, right? So I don't think the communication overall has stopped, you know. Access to communication has risen, and this is why there's so much trouble with the censorship as well. This is the whole thing about the US controlling TikTok, right? Anyways.
am convinced that when AI finally gets this whole virome figured out and we start comparing it to the genomes and the way the body works, we're going to find such a weird connection between the world of viruses and the human body and all of the disorders and mental states and stomach issues people have had. And there is now new evidence that revives a viral hypothesis for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Yeah, kid you not. It would be the virus hepatitis C, a theory that was first proposed over a decade ago. And now these new recent studies, especially one led by researchers at Johns Hopkins, using brain tissue, have found viral genetic material, particularly that of hepatitis C, the HCV RNA virus, in the brain fluid producing lining of people who have schizophrenia and bipolar disorder at higher rates than in controls. So the work you
That would be so crazy. That would be very nice. If they're able to find something to treat that, that would be amazing.
used advanced sequencing to screen for thousands of viruses and then confirmed that HCV was significantly more likely to be presented in these groups and in associated health records. I don't know. What do you think? Although the virus wasn't found deep inside the brain tissue, its presence in the lining was associated with changes in gene activity in key brain regions. So it's not like an open shut case, but it is new evidence to look at, and it changes and messes with long-standing viral hypotheses of several mental illnesses. But if schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, if they're a virus, are, like it's like, are they contagious? Like, what parts of the world are the virus in? Is it the kind of virus that lands in the lung or the eyes better? There's just so many more questions. And also viruses tend to have genes that can be made for them, you know, more than many other things. So maybe there will be a vaccine one day for schizophrenia or bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be wild. I don't think I
That'd be
envisioned
crazy.
a near future where maybe an RNA vaccine comes out. Next up, let's talk about Spadia, right? Probably like splatter
Bro, just real quick, RNA are not vaccines.
or like Spatia. I don't know how you'd say it, but this is a video
It is specifically on the way that it acts and it behaves.
generation with updatable spatial memory. So think about memory that we use in the context of LLMs to kind of learn about us over time, long-term memory, like the way the human brain works, like when you're sleeping, short-term to long-term. This isn't that much different, but it's for actual 3D generation. So
Well, I don't think that's true, but you have to keep in mind that this is all still off the same 2017 paper, right? There's no new magic breakthrough on the computing of these models, right?
Spatia is a cutting-edge video generation model that uses an updatable spatial memory to improve long-range consistency in generated video. So instead of just generalizing frames independently, like most of the models do to try to preserve like the world that they're in and that kind of works a little bit. Like we've seen Genie and Veo do some of that. But in this case, it's actually building and preserving a
So you have pros and cons for these two different approaches right now, right? So if they produce one image, the image is going to be the best, right? But you lose the video over time. Here you have a bigger picture, but anything that comes close, what we see here in what we actually see in the video, it's all shit. It looks like shit.
3D scene point cloud that acts as a persistent memory. So this is a
So there's no, look at this. I mean, it's a little odd, right? But there's no new breakthrough. There is just different approach to do the same thing.
a three-dimensional memory that it can use to kind of know how wide a hallway should be or how solid a wall should be. And during generation, this spatial memory guides the model to produce videos that maintain realistic motion. So spatial.
Yeah, realistic motion. That's the thing. Did you see the dog? Just focus on the dog right here. And when he turns over, I think his butt's in the middle of
Model to produce
himself
videos that
right
maintain
here.
realistic motion.
Yeah, that was pretty weird.
Spatial memory guides the model to produce videos that maintain realistic
Look at this.
motion.
Boop.
So spatial coherence and geometry over long-term
Yeah, I don't know, man. That table seems to be coming inside of the
horizons.
room
So spatial coherence and
right here, you know? I don't know how coherent this is.
geometry over long-term horizons. I think this is pretty neat. Memory of three-dimensional spaces, like that seems like a huge win to me. This seems like it's more like the foundation of a world model, that's something that replaces LLMs and becomes more than multimodal would have. And
That was a little odd. Dylan makes great videos, but the thing is, large language model is that you can introduce anything to be language, right? Text is effectively language, audio is effectively language, video is a language. You could have associations that could be a language. So, you know, there's I don't know, let's say 36 million colors. Uh, you can make a language for out of it, right? So everything is reduced to language. So there's not really a way for LLMs to not be involved unless they change completely what they're doing.
this system is also built to disentangle static scene components from the dynamic elements. That means it lets users control camera motion and interact with the generated content in a
And if it's really good, it's gonna be very short. You know, all have their pros and cons. Eventually, maybe there's gonna be enough compute for it to be good enough. So as we saw for Coca-Cola's ad, they had like, I don't know, let's say 50 different shots, but they were all about 2.5 seconds. If you can get something that is very good for up to 10 seconds, they're going to be able to splice and make something out of it, right? They're going to be able to do ads with it. If you get something that's good enough to do 10 minutes, well, maybe they're going to be able to do TV shows then. And if you have something that is able to go 20 minutes, maybe they're going to be able to do whole movies with it. But don't don't be mistaken. This is not intelligent. This is just a big con.
geometrically grounded way. So yeah, persistent 3D spatial memory. All right, next up, you ready to talk about a third path to explaining consciousness? This one's going to be a fun one. So, biological computationalism. What is it? What does it mean? Is that where consciousness comes from? Here's an arrow going up and to the right and consciousness up here. So scientists are proposing a new way to think about the consciousness that arises in brains. Traditionally, researchers have argued that the minds of is either like software running on hardware, so they call that computational functionalism, or that consciousness is inherently tied to the organic body of the living brain. Biological naturalism. All right, computational functionalism, biological naturalism. Spectrum, you got to pick where you are in the spectrum. But nope, here comes a third dimension, a third idea. And this new proposal is
There are multiple ideas. There are more ideas than this. And the whole point of having this many different ideas is that nobody's able to explain what is truly happening. So don't just take everything for granted right here. I've read a paper on a different concept, and I can't find the paper. I cannot find the paper for the life of me. I spent hours and hours trying to find it, and I was not able to. Um, but it's a very interesting idea.
called biological computationalism. So get rid of the naturalism after biological, get rid of the functionalism after computational, and put the computation and the biological together. Biological computationalism. I like it, I guess, but my opinion aside, this is a middle path. It suggests that the brain does compute, but not in the abstract digital way that we think of computers computing. Instead, brain computation is deeply physical. It involves this hybrid, discrete, and continuous process across many.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you need both, right? There are certain things that happen automatically, right? Your heart beats, your, and this is the one that's very interesting to me. You're breathing. So most of the day, you're breathing automatically. You're not thinking about it. And you can stop yourself and start breathing the way to a rhythm that you can decide yourself, right? So it feels like it is both, a little bit of both.
Scales, with energy use and body constraints shaping how information is processed. In this view, the computation isn't separate from the physical structure of the brain. It literally is the structure. And understanding consciousness means widening how we define computation itself. This could change how scientists think about and build truly mind-like artificial systems. Let me know your thought in the comment. This is kind of interesting. So because replicating consciousness might require a new kind of physical architecture, not just better software, it kind of means there might be a cap to how much we can scale this sort of compute that everybody's putting $1 trillion into right now, and it would need to be biological.
I think it is one common $1 trillion, right? They're talking about $2 trillion in the next 5 years. That is overall. $1 trillion is a lot of money.
That does align with some of the people Wes and I have been doing podcasts with who have said, basically, as long as it's in silicon, no way, even if it's biological but not in a human body, could be conscious.
Right. So there's the biochips could be. Um, I don't want to venture too much into that, but maybe quantum computers could bring this here. Who knows?
But the interesting insight here is rather than treating the brain's computing as something abstract that can only run on machines, biological computationalism says that computation in brains is inseparable from living physical processes.
What would be really scary to me is that eventually they're gonna try to take either uh, like a immediately deceased person and do like a brain transplant inside of a mechanical computer and just have this creature interact with the world. I think most likely it is going to uh, multiply the capacity of the brain, right? I think we've started to see um, uh, I don't think this is it, but there are sensors like are we there yet? 2019. At least they're trying to do that, right? So I don't know. This is
and that
too
reframes
weird.
the whole quest for artificial consciousness. All right, next up, something else you might not be that consciously aware of is the air quality in the room that you're in right now. So studyfinds.org published this. Is air pollution training your immune system to turn against you? All right, so we're focusing on little particles in the air of pollution. We're going to use PM25 when I'm talking about this, but what it means is that's the kind of particles, the pollution particles that are so small you can't see them because they're about approximately 30 times smaller than a human hair. So you get a lot of these PM 2.5 particles from things like car exhaust, wildfires, factories, even burning wood or gas. And because they're so small, they don't just stay in your nose or throat when you breathe them in, they go deep into your lungs.
Oof.
And they can enter your bloodstream. Air pollution, especially long-term exposure to fine particles like these PM 2.5s, may not only harm lungs and heart, but also be subtly reshaping the immune system in ways that could raise the risk of autoimmune diseases. Now, there's a huge slope up and to the right on autoimmune diseases in the modern world. And research is showing that people living in areas with these higher levels of PM 2.5s tend to have elevated anti-nuclear antibodies. These are early markers that are often seen before autoimmune conditions develop, which suggests chronic pollution exposure might be training our immune system towards self-harm, harmful self-reactivity, rather than protection. When your immune system stops protecting you and works against you, it's just bad news. Yeah, so next time you're breathing something like that, remember, scientists think these tiny particles from pollution can get into the bloodstream and trigger that inflammation. All right, and finally, I wanted to leave you with a podcast you might want to check out. So Quanta Magazine posts podcasts and blogs. I think it's maybe my favorite source, like top 5 sources for just interesting stuff. And this one, December 23rd, ICYMI, Is Gravity Just Rising Entropy, is one that I feel is resonating with me, and I'm going to listen to maybe a third time when I go to bed tonight. This concept is called entropic gravity. Tell me if you've heard of this before. You can imagine space full of these tiny little informational bits that describe where matter is and how it can move. Entropic gravity is the idea that gravity might not be a fundamental force like electricity, and this might be why everybody's had so much trouble unifying quantum mechanics and gravity and like the big and the small. But instead, what it could be is something that appears naturally because the universe always tends towards more disorder. More disorder means higher entropy. So here's a simple way to picture it. Think of placing a heavy ball on a soft mattress or on a trampoline. You've probably seen something like this to describe gravity before. The mattress sinks around the ball. Now picture smaller marbles nearby rolling towards the heavy ball. They roll towards the heavy ball not because the mattress is pulling them, but because the shape of the mattress guides them there. In entropic gravity, space works a little more like that mattress, where you place matter in space and it changes the information in a natural way where entropy wants to increase. Okay, this seems like such a simple idea. In the podcast, you'll hear him talk about how there's quantum spin, and you can imagine sort of like a billiard ball with an arrow. And when they're all in random directions, you kind of have the most entropy. When they're all sort of facing the same direction, like a magnet that might pull a bunch of filings in a certain direction, they become more unified, right? There's less disorder now. And maybe that is what makes gravity sort of yank and pull on matter. And I was like, that is such a different way to think about it, and maybe kind of plausible, or at least worth looking into. Objects would move in the direction that increases entropy most easily, which looks exactly like gravity to us. So if gravity is entropy, it's like, that's crazy. So another analogy would be heat spreading in a room. Nobody forces the heat to spread. It simply does that because it's the most natural state. Entropic gravity would say that it works in the same way. Things fall towards each other because that is the most natural, most efficient arrangement of information in the universe. Scientists are still debating this idea, and now we can too. In the comments below. While you're there, hit the hype button. That is the
That's
YouTube button that you will
fascinating.
find on the YouTube app on your iPhone or Android. And I will see you guys in the next video.